Hey everybody, Hoosier Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking the Doctor Who episode Dark Water. And all in all, I thought this episode was just kind of okay. Now the big reveal that's going on here and that scene in the early part of the episode with Clara, that was all really well done. But everything else in the episode was just kind of mostly and although I will say that the Danny Pink stuff was a little bit higher on the scale. So actually, let's just talk about Danny really quickly. Now he's a little romantic conversation and the whole, from now on, I love you is only for you and all that other stuff. Yeah, okay, it's soppy and sappy and all that other fun stuff, but romance is often like that, and yeah, it's laying things on a little thick, but when you're in love, well, you don't feel like that's laying it on too thick. It's as thick as you lay it on, it's still never enough, because that's just how it is when you love someone else like that. And the whole thing with after Danny is killed and him meeting that kid that he had killed in Afghanistan, that was certainly that was all nicely done. Excuse me, itch. And of course, a nice touch, with the whole thing of the Cybermen, him having the iPad that says delete on that, another little nod that the Cybermen are all involved. Okay, good stuff there. I wasn't too impressed by that whole, don't cremate me stuff, because, well, frankly, it reminds me an awful lot of the plot to an episode of Tales from the Crypt that I watched years and years ago. And while the visuals in the 3W place were nice and all of that, and I didn't really think terribly much of Dr. Chang, and I'm honestly confused by what exactly is going on here. I mean, wait, so as long as there's a skeleton, they can turn that into a Cyberman now? Okay. And it's like, wait, the doctor says that so only organic material can be seen in there, so I guess there's no internal organs or anything left. I mean, bone is really not that strong. In fact, things like bones would be one of the parts that I could understand the Cybermen wanting to replace most, because those are very breakable, comparatively speaking. It's things like the brain that are much more complicated and that you'd want to keep. I mean, sure, I guess there could be brains inside of those, but I don't know. I mean, this is another one of those things where you just probably shouldn't think about it too much. I gotta say, I think Stephen Moffat really does have that bad habit of don't think about this too awful much. The folks on TV Tropes even call it Belisario's Axum, after Donald P. Belisario from Quantum Leap and NCIS fame, who basically said, don't examine this too closely. So it's just like, don't think about too much about how all of this is supposed to work. Just Cybermen are turning skeletons into Cybermen, and that's bad and creepy. Okay. So let's just kind of move on to the two big things. Clara is betraying the Doctor, excuse me, and Missy. So Clara and the Doctor. Now, a lot of people I've seen really don't understand why the Doctor is so quick to forgive Clara for what she's done. I think a lot of people are probably forgetting, or just only know New Who and thus aren't aware of this, that the Fifth Doctor's companions, Adric and Turlough, also kind of betrayed him. Both times, if I remember correctly, repeatedly. Although, Turlough was in a very half-hearted situation where it's basically do this or, the I'll kill you from another one character. And Adric was just very gullible and naive, really. So I don't really think he interpreted Clara. I think he interpreted Clara as doing it sort of like that. Someone who does not mean him ill, but is betraying him just out of a flaw in their personality. And Clara's, of course, being love. It's not like oh darn, was it Adam? I think it was the fellow from the Ninth Doctor's run who got that cybernetic what's it's put in his head. Well, when he did that, he was planning to take that to go back to the 21st century and use that to make himself rich and famous. The Doctor comes along and gives him this amazing opportunity, and all he can think about is gaining wealth and prestige and power for himself. Clara, again, does want something for herself, but it's something simple as to have the person she loves back. So basically Adam was being very selfish, and he was acting from a place of greed and vanity. Clara, in a way, is also being selfish, but she's acting from a place of love. So it's just being that, being from a place where the Doctor can respect, for all intents and purposes, respect that betrayal. I don't think that's why he really holds it against her the way he did the Ninth Doctor held it against Adam. Boy, if that guy's name wasn't Adam, I'm going to be really embarrassed. I probably should have looked that up before I started making this video, but I want to go play video games, so yeah. Let's see. Nope, really nothing much else to say about that. So, Missy is the Master. Well, this is an idea that's been bouncing around and been a very popular theory since Michelle Gomez was announced as being on the show. Of course, there were also a lot of people who were speculating that Danny Pink was going to turn out to be the Master. But anyway, I'm perfectly okay with this. I mean, it's previously established in The Doctor's Wife that Time Lords can change genders when they regenerate. And the idea of the Master as evil Mary Poppins is just really cool. It seems like a very fitting continuation of John Sims' interpretation of the Master. Now, I always like Anthony Idley, I think is how his last name goes. Basically like the 80s Master is always been my favorite interpretation of the character. And Michelle Gomez and John Sims are, as hammy as that Master is, they take it up to a whole new level. And, there's nothing particularly wrong with that. The Master is intended to be an extremely hammy villain. I just don't know if I exactly like the direction they take the hamminess with it. I mean, John Sim was basically just the Master as just basically had kind of turned into something of a comedian. I mean, he was still all kinds of evil and crazy, but he just really cranked up the more humorous aspects of it. And Missy just takes it a step further with the whole thing of the Master is basically not even really so much interested in universal domination anymore. And remember, this is a guy, the Master, who literally killed 1/4 of the living beings in the universe. I'm not joking, man. Go back and watch some of those old Peter Davidson episodes. The Master is a real bastard. And frankly, I think that kind of tops turning the Doctor into a house elf and keeping him locked in a cage for a year. But anyway, Missy, again, she just turns like, oh, he's my boyfriend, and just seriously, it's like the Master said, like, what, screw taking over the universe. I mean, yeah, if I happen to do it while I'm getting around to things, sure. And, taking over Earth, yeah, that's all great. But what I really want to do with my life is screw with the Doctor. And now that the Master is female, that could be quite a bit more literal than possibly before. And again, given the insane amount of Hoye that John Sims channeled when he was on the show. Well, anyway. So yeah, I'm generally just fine with the idea of the Master becoming female because, hey, why the hell not, right? I mean, it's certainly not the craziest thing they've ever done on Doctor Who. And as some people have said, this kind of does open the door to maybe somewhere down the future we might even see a female Doctor. Yeah, sure, why not? If they find the right actress, go for it. Now, lost my train of thought there. Okay. So basically, those big moments that are getting some people really upset. I don't really have a problem with that. It's just while those were really cool moments, it seems like anything that was not those two moments, really didn't shine all that much. And given that next episode is the season finale, this episode, that episode is really going to have to be something dynamite, or as much as I hate to say it, I'm probably going to have to call this a rather lackluster season of Doctor Who. Now, that's not a knock against Peter Capaldi in any way, shape, or form. Peter Capaldi has been just fantastic as the Doctor. I love the guy. It's just he's not really been given the greatest of material to work with. It just sort of feels like, honestly, it feels sort of like this. I'm watching 6 Doctor episodes. It's like we've got this guy. He's a really good actor, and he has a really interesting take on the Doctor. But the scripts they're handing him are kind of, yeah. When I used to work in Korea, when I taught my students that this was kind of the so-so symbol, for some reason they went absolutely nuts for it. That's not in any way, shape, or form relevant. I just thought I'd bring that up. And yeah, guys, that's really all I had to say about this episode. I mean, it's not a bad episode by any stretch of the imagination, but 2 big highlights and some just aren't enough to really get a big thumbs up from me. And with that said, I'm going to call it here. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe, and of course you can follow me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi. Until next time, take care and have a good one.